Want to hear something amazing? Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year automatically, dollar for dollar, with no limit on how much you can earn. Extra cash? Come on, how amazing is that? In fact, it's even more amazing when you realize all the places where Discover is accepted. 99% of places in the U.S. that take credit cards. So when it comes to Discover, get used to hearing yes more often. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2020 Nielsen Report. Limitations apply.
It's Job Search Advice Radio, episode 1952. I'm your host, Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and welcome. This is one of my long interviews. It's an interview with David Lloyd Jr., and we talk about things to do when times are tough in order to get your job search going. Hope you enjoy it. Hope you find it helpful. I'm going to remind you, as you'll hear at the end of the show, I have a new class up on Udemy called the Ultimate Job Interview Framework. And it's a really good class I did that covers a lot of material in 40 minutes time. Inexpensive, a lot less expensive than my coaching, and I know it'll help a lot of you. And with that, let's get going. So my guest today is David E. Lloyd Jr., a U.S. Marine veteran with almost 20 years of experience as a consultant to the federal government. He's the let me restate that. He's the founder of DJ the Career Coach. I don't know where my head was at that moment. And the author of the Job Promotion Manual. His work, well, what he does is help his clients with landing their next promotion, increasing their salary, and networking within the job market. DJ, welcome.
Hello.
Great to have you on.
Yeah, great to be here. Yes.
Thank you. So here we are. Times are, shall we say, complicated. You know, I've been through a lot of recessions. Mm-hmm. Nothing like this. No one's seen anything like this, for which there's no playbook whatsoever. Yeah. And we're going to talk today about some of the things that people can do when times get rough. Not necessarily like COVID tough, mm-hmm. but like tough in general. And you've got 10 things we're going to talk about today. Mm-hmm. So what's number one? What's the first thing that people should do in getting ready when times get rough?
Well, my go-to is always my resume. So whenever I am considering moving on to a new job or considering this job I have is not working out, the first thing I do is update my resume. That's the key thing, and making sure that it's up to date, and just making sure that it's a fresh look sometimes can give you some ideas of what to change and what to make better, and make sure that there's no repetition as you begin updating those different sections.
I remember in olden times when people had resumes in Times New Roman font. Mm-hmm. You know, back in the Stone Ages when dinosaurs roamed the earth, and it was the ugliest thing known to humanity, but that's what people did. You know, in Times New Roman, ugly as all hell. And I go so far as I always tell people, try and make some time every few months to just update your resume, because you know, if you're out the door or you're afraid of getting fired, stress really hits, and you miss things. You don't language them as well. And thus, it's always better if you just take a few minutes every couple of months, just to update your resume to bring up to date so you don't forget anything.
Right, that's the key part. Now, not forgetting, because sometimes when you're doing a training or you're learned something new or you've given a training and you forget about it, so you don't add it to the resume. But the more frequently you're updating it, the more things you can add that are more relevant to the things you're learning, new things that you're learning.
And remember, folks, you can always take it out
later. Yes.
It's harder to remember at that time, but you can always take it out.
Yes.
And with that, I'll also add LinkedIn profile, because LinkedIn, of course, is where the headhunters are out prowling for people. Right. And you want your profile ready and up to date so that they're reaching out to you, because you can always say no.
Exactly. And, you know, it's one thing that you also can do outside of just updating your resume is also update those profiles, you know, and it's something that, you know, as you're updating your resume, you update your LinkedIn profile, or you're on Monster or Indeed or Career Builder. going back and updating those profiles, keeping them current is a good thing as well, because I always say, like you were saying earlier, about when you have those rough days at work, and it always motivates me to go back and update my resume and update my my career profiles, my job descriptions.
If you're updating your resume on the day you're feeling homicidal, it's too late. You should have done it before. So that was number one.
Yes.
Number two.
Yes. So number two, I talked to people, and some of them I remember I was talking to a client, and she asked me, she said, "Hey, do we still need cover letters nowadays?" And I said, yeah, cover letters are still important. It's still important to create a cover letter. And especially if you don't have a really lengthy work history, you definitely want to include that cover letter. And the purpose why I say that is because it gives you the extra oomph to your resume, because the things that you can't put onto your resume, like your journey or how you got to your current position or how you even got to your current state that you live in. I mean, most of us are moving around, moving in places that we didn't live, we were born and raised. But how did you get there? How did you get to this particular place? You can put all that in your resume. You can put all those things you can't fit, in your cover letter, all the things you can't fit in your resume. You get to tell your story in your cover letter.
And when you teach people how to do cover letters, what are your thoughts about it?
Make it personal. Make it personal. It's a letter. Make it feel like a letter. And sometimes people want to reiterate the things they said on their resume. I said, no, don't do that. Let the resume do what the resume is supposed to do. Use that cover to be very personal and be direct, and so that you get to show that you're a human being and you have experiences. You can mention your children, your kids, your family. Why did you relocate? Those things you can't get in a resume, but you can get those things in your cover letter.
Interesting. How long do you think a cover letter should be?
I would say no more than 3 paragraphs. Usually 2 paragraphs is about the length of the ones that I do help people create. And then usually those sentences are no more than 5 to 7 sentences within each paragraph. So you don't want it too lengthy, because who wants to be reading a dissertation during a cover letter? But you don't want to be too short. You want it to definitely make it feel as though you put some time and energy into your cover letter, but not overwhelm the recruiter or the hiring manager.
Because they won't be interested after a while.
Yeah, if I see a letter that's 5 paragraphs, I get kind of, this is going to be long. So right. I wouldn't suggest doing that.
Do you have people send it in as the body of an email, as an attachment? Does it not matter to you?
Well, usually I know Monster.com allows you to submit a cover letter with your resume. So that's an opportunity there. It just depends. Typically, if a recruiter reaches out, I won't typically automatically send my cover letter or ask the client to do that unless they really are trying to make an impression. It's not always necessary to provide a cover letter, but if there's those situations where you really want to impress the recruiter, you want to stand out, especially if you don't have a lengthy work history, you want to do those things. But if you have a 5-page resume, because you're showing all the work history that you have, don't send it may not be required to send a cover letter to them, email it to them. It may be a little bit overwhelming to give them another page on top of that. So just be thoughtful about, if you was on the receiving end of that, would you do that? And sometimes, if it's 5 or 6 pages, and I've seen that 5 or 6 page resumes, and adding a cover letter to that, and even I've seen 2-page cover letters. That's now a 7 to 8 page document you're sending someone to have them look over. That's not going to go over well when you have a recruiter who's actually have interviews and who's doing all kinds of other things in conjunction to getting your email. So just be mindful of, if you're going to do a cover letter, you're going to send it, be mindful of how many pages you're sending that individual, and also be mindful of what is the story you're trying to tell them. It may not be necessary.
Agreed. Number three,
avoid restating in your resume, in your cover, the things you said in your resume. I said again, be careful not to just repeat all the things you said in your resume on your cover letter. So that's another thing that I see people do. They will go back and just start putting in sentence form all the bullets that they said in the resume. And don't do that. Make it personal. That's the purpose of the cover letter. You want to, as I say all the time to my clients, make a friend. With your cover letter, your interview, try to make it personal. Try to tell a story that's compelling and interesting in your cover letter. So and give them insight into why you made certain career choices and hobbies that you love. So that way they feel like, I'm getting to know a person.
Gotcha. Are we on to number 4 or number 3?
Are number 4 now.
That's what I thought. Number 4.
So nowadays we have the ATS, and for some people this is intimidating. For some they like the idea, and this is the applicant tracking system. So what it does is it looks through, once you put your resume onto Monster.com, Indeed, Career Builder, it goes through a little crawler, goes through looking at all those words that are on your resume and looking for what they call keywords. And based on those keywords, they will begin to fit you into categories based on the words that it comes up with. So let's say you have a keyword like engineer or a network engineer. Then you're going to start getting emails maybe from those sites about network engineering. And so it's a great thing. It's a wonderful thing. But let's say you have things that you don't want to get jobs for, but you still have some of those keywords on your resume. You will start to get some of those listings as well. So those are some of the, I guess, the downsides of the ATS system. And that's why we'll get into the objective later, about objective statements, and why I feel that it helps the recruiter in this ATS world to definitely, when they reach out to you, they know exactly what position you're interested in, because that ATS can also sort of backfire in a way to send you down a road where you're not interested in.
I agree. With an ATS, I know if you position it higher in the resume, it thinks, it's kind of like currency. It's more current experience. And thus, if it's in the top of the first page, if it's in the first 2/3 of the first page, it likes that, especially if there's repetition. If it's on the bottom of page 2, less interested, because it interprets that as being old. So the things you want to be interviewed for, you always want to have up high. The things you don't want to be interviewed, you want to place low, because even if it shows up as a keyword on one of these systems, it's scored lower, because these systems kind of score things like, this is a 32% possible match. Okay, I'm going to skip over that one. Let me go to the 87 first. And I'll get to the number 32 sometime when hell freezes over.
Yeah, and you start getting those job listings. And I had a client one time, he was saying, hey, I'm getting all these jobs that I don't want. I'm getting all these job listings of things that I don't want. And then we went back with his resume. He had like, okay, well, you have these keywords in your resume, so you're going to get them. So we had to go back and sort of look at his resume and rephrase things and bring up the terminology a bit so that it was up to date.
Gotcha. Number 5.
So strategy in salary negotiation. This is a scary thing for people. They do not like negotiating salary. They would rather just take whatever they're being offered and complain about it later. I wouldn't suggest
not the people I work with.
No. I meet some, and the reason why they feel that way is because you just want to hear yes. You want to hear, I got you, you got the job, but that's not good enough. I even had a client one time, she knew that the salary they want to give her wasn't, wasn't satisfactory, but she was just trying to get a job. She was trying to get back into the workforce, and she was going to take whatever they were going to offer her. So, but then when she got the job, she had to go back to actually do what she should have done in the beginning. She had to negotiate a salary. So to do that effectively, what I believe is you need to really understand your budget. Because sometimes I think when people don't have the conviction that they really need to say, this is how much I'm worth, it's because they don't really know how much they're worth. They don't really know what it is that they need in order for their life to function. So I would definitely recommend go over your budget, look at how much your vacation costs, how much your insurance costs, how much all your utilities, all your loans, all your credit cards. Look at that and really come up with a number about this is how much I need in order to survive and save. And then look at how much you're asking for in terms of your salary. So when you're asked, what is your salary rate? You have that conviction because you know how much money you actually need in order to survive off of. And a lot of people are actually surprised when they actually go through that exercise. I have this whole budget exercise they go through to really get them an idea of how much money they need. Most folks go, wow, I'm not asking for enough. Or they'll go, I'm really wasting a lot of my money that I'm getting from my salary.
Very true. I know I had a situation a few years ago where a woman I was coaching, she came to me after her interviews had started. She was moving from New Jersey to Seattle and really didn't have a sense of cost of living in Seattle. She thought she did until she was about 3 interviews in and said, I can't afford to live there. And they're about to make me an offer. And I helped her by just pausing the conversation with the firm and said, I made a mistake. I suspect you know this, but I made a mistake. I thought the cost of living between New Jersey and Seattle was comparable. It really isn't. And she went through 4 or 5 different items where Seattle was significantly higher. And they said, okay. And they upped what they were proposing to her to get her on board. Things can be rectified sometimes, but not all the time, particularly when times are tough. And employers think, I've got one over the barrel. I got one. She can't argue with us. She's unemployed.
Right.
And they use that lever. So folks, be aware of what the market is for what you do. For real, not just what your friend tells you.
Exactly. Do your own research. And my whole thing is know what you need. That's the thing. Know how much you need. Don't depend on, there are lots of websites out there that will tell you what salaries are for a particular position. But what do you need? How much money do you need to function? And creating your budget off of that. Now, given you might go out and do all your budget and you look at all your finances and decide that, I know that I can make more than that. That's totally fine. But at least you still have an idea of what your operating expenses are.
And I'm also going to remind you that from the time they start asking you about what you're looking for or what your current compensation is, they're negotiating.
Right.
Job hunters think that negotiation takes place at the end. No, it takes place every time they're asking a money question. That's negotiation.
Yes.
So don't be surprised. And there are ways to duck off of this that I know I've done in other videos and other interviews. But for today, because we're a little tight on time, let's keep going. Number 6.
Number 6. So what I ask people to do, especially in this particular time period where we're looking at the whole pandemic and possibly heading to a recession, you want to take online courses. You want to show employers that, hey, I'm learning new skills and I have new skills to provide. So, and what's great is there's a lot of training that's online is free. So I go to Udemy, Coursera. I go to these places and look and see what are trainings that are available that I could possibly get a certificate for that is free, or I pay. I think Udemy you can pay $13, $15 for a class, and it's really reasonable prices they have for them, and they give you a certificate, and that's something you can put on your resume. And so that's an opportunity there for you to become more competitive.
Great. Folks, Udemy is spelled Udemy. There's Coursera, Coursera. I was looking for a friend of mine yesterday. Heck, Harvard has classes online that you can take for nothing or very little, like really very little. So there's ways to continue your training and keep improving, because that is a signal of someone who's career motivated.
Yes, people like to see that. Someone who enjoys learning, and regardless of age. I talk to some people like, oh well, I'm at a certain age. Should I go back to school? And it just depends on what your goals are. But you still should always continue on taking courses and learning something new.
Agreed. You know, you may have noticed this face of mine is not 24, and I'll simply say, older workers comp to ageism much too easily. You know, They think they're getting turned down because of their age. Most of the time it isn't. Now, sometimes it is. Most of the time it's skills deficiency, lack of preparation. You know, they've done nothing to upgrade their talents over the last few years. Their background is dated. That's the biggest issue, or they don't know how to present themselves. So folks, keep taking classes. It makes a big difference.
Right. And I always say, when someone who's older, you have a ton of experience, and that experience needs to be passed on to the younger generation. So that's one of the things that you show up with, that I have the ability to help others get better and help train. So I'm always looking at, when I have a person who is older, I want to encourage them to include that training, that they're willing to train others on their resume.
Absolutely. And I'll also say, folks, if you get the question that basically translates into, hey, look, I'm 34 and you're not. How do you feel about working with someone older than you? I'll just simply say, folks, the way to respond is to say something to the effect of, I've been in your seat. I don't want to be in your seat. I'm happy to help you if you want it. If you don't want it, my feelings aren't hurt. I'll keep my mouth shut and do what you want me to do. And to say it with conviction, not just as though you're going, and make it seem like you're making it up on the fly. Like, you have to be real clear about this. I don't want to be in your seat at all. If you want my advice, I'll give it to you. If you don't want my advice, my feelings aren't hurt. I'll just do my job. I'm okay with that. And people respond well to that. And I know that's the big issue that a lot of older professionals have when they go on the interview and they see the older manager, and their first response is to go, oh, I'm doomed. Oh, doomed. 7. We're up to number 7.
So be flexible. So sometimes when we're stuck in a particular position, and especially when you feel stuck, and people want to get out of that particular position, they want to grow, they want to do other things, and see other people who are moving ahead and they're not. And how do you find flexibility? It may not be the answers that I want to move to a different position or a different job or a different company. It's just that I want to move to some greater responsibilities and greater opportunities. So if you're in the government, a lot of my customers are government employees, or they are contractors to the federal government. I try to encourage them to look at what they call TDYs, which is temporary duty training, which is what will happen is they will look out and see what positions are open or who can they shadow, and they will begin getting credit for that. They can put that on their resume for all that training they've gotten working in a different environment, maybe a different unit or division, or they may shadow one of their coworkers on the team they're currently with. But that's all things that you can put on your resume. And because they are tracking that, the government actually tracks this, they will help you, those items you learn will help you get that job. So if there's a particular job that you're interested in that you want to someday hopefully apply for, then you would find the person who's already doing that job and begin to sort of shadow them. And then what happens is when you're ready to apply for that job, you can say, I've already done a lot of those duties already. Have already accomplished those tasks. And that makes you more competitive for that position.
Interesting. It's an interesting approach that the government takes. Number 8.
So number 8, prepare to interview virtually. So especially now, we're doing a lot of virtual interviews, and people are finding out that they don't interview very well on a Zoom meeting. You know, they don't have that connection. They can't make that connection. And I guess I never thought about that until I started talking to individuals about, you know, hey, I'm getting interviewed and I'm doing them in Zoom meetings, but for something that there's something that's not clicking. And I'm saying, well, do you smile? And they're like, I don't know. Like, do you open the conversation up with an opening? So, you know, now when we first started this conversation, it was like, hey, how are you? You know, how are things going? I really just didn't jump into, you know, the top 10. We actually had a little banter back and forth. So you want to do that before the meeting. Sometimes everyone's not conversationalist, so the recruiter may not do that, but still it's on you to do that. One of the things back here you see behind me, I have a ton of books behind me. So if I was the interviewer, then what I would do is, if I was you and I was the interviewer, then you would simply say, hey, you know, I see you're a book lover. You know, what kind of books have you read lately? My face would light up because I'm a book guy. So that's a great conversational opener, so that when you're engaging online, you don't have an office to really look and say, okay, let me see what's on his desk so I can start a conversation about that, because that's something that I do in an interview. I try to find things that are interesting or conversation openers in the person's office. But since you don't have that ability, you're going to have to really, you know, look behind the person and see, do I see any pictures, or I see a fern. I think that's a fern behind you.
The big beast.
Oh, he said a maybe. But that's a conversation opener. As long as you get a chuckle, you get a laugh, that helps out in terms of breaking the ice when you're doing a Zoom meeting.
Absolutely. 9. So for my number 9 suggestion, I have send a thank you letter. So we don't do this anymore. People don't send thank you letters anymore, or thank you emails any longer. It's sort of outdated, but it's a great way to make yourself stand out. It's superb. So sending a thank you email is awesome. That's great. It's, to say, hey, I enjoyed the interview. Thank you for meeting with me. Hopefully I'll hear a decision in a certain time frame. If you know the time frame, is a great, but no one sends hand letter written thank you letters anymore, or thank you notes any longer. If you really want to stand out, then I would do that if I really wanted to stand out. So before I leave the interview, I would definitely try to get the person's card in order to find a way to get in contact with them through mail, and then maybe immediately after the interview, put together a thank you letter, so that way you will sort of surprise them with that. And it's another way, if you know the time period when they're going to make a decision, to say it's going to be 2 weeks from the day of your interview, then you can schedule that thank you letter so that so by the time they've forgotten about maybe your interview, then they have a little reminder, say, hey, remember me? That thank you letter can be scheduled so that you can come up in their memory one more time before they make their final decision. If you know around the time frame they're going to make that decision, and it's a little bit farther out into the future. That was number 9, if I'm not mistaken,
That was
right?
number 9.
Number 10.
And number 10, the most important out of all of them, be patient.
Now that one's interesting. Go into more about being patient.
So one of the things that, because we're so busy thinking about, did I get the job, did I get the job, did I do well, and all the nervousness and worry about that, we forget to be diligent. So instead of using that energy of worrying and trying to figure out, why didn't they just say, choose me, or have they chosen anybody yet, or just sit back and say, what can I do right now that's going to help me to possibly not get this job, but maybe another job. So whenever I end the interview, I keep looking. I don't just stop there. I don't stop looking because I had a really good interview or a bad interview. I want to continue looking and searching for jobs, because what makes it feel better when I am leaving the interview, I know that I have other opportunities lined up in the process. That makes a lot easier, and especially if you happen to get a no, then it makes it easier when you know that you have other things lined up along the way. So when I say be patient, I really do mean be diligent, and don't just stop looking just because there's a 1 or 2 opportunities on the table.
I'm gonna do this in a way that's designed to be playful. Job hunting is very much like dating. And when you think about dates, for me, it's been a long time. And I still remember times where I thought I had a great date, and the person goes, I don't think so. And it's the same thing in a job search. You had a great interview and they choose someone else. And you go, because you stopped at that point and you're not keeping on looking. Now, one of the fun phenomena that I've always seen is that when job hunters get offers, other offers tend to come in if they keep doing the work.
Right.
Part of it is that you act like you don't care.
Exactly.
And you relax a little bit, and you can be more of yourself and connect with people better. So just keep dating, folks. Don't sit back there waiting for the phone to ring going, will he call me? Will she call me? Just keep it going out there until someone says, I love you.
Yes.
I'm in love. Do you love me? And then you can start working at slowing things down. And even then I tell people, don't slow things down, because you don't know if you're getting an offer that's worth taking.
Right. And even if you get the job, you hear yes, you don't know if you want to stay. You may get there and say, hey, this isn't what I expected. At least if you're still continuing to look, then it could be a possibility that you can get one of those jobs that sort of like, get me out of here, please, because I made the wrong decision. I made the wrong selection. So just because you heard yes, and even if you came aboard, doesn't mean that the job search ends. I always tell my clients, wait 3 months and to make that final, just to stop looking. Sometimes longer, but usually 3 months is when you want to stop interviewing for jobs, because it could be that the job that you accepted isn't the right fit. After you get there, you decide that it is not what I want to be doing.
And I'm going to say one of those tough messages and say, folks, everyone's lying in the job search process. Employers are, shall we say, embellishing the truth a little bit. You're playing yourself to the best of your abilities, maybe creating a few fictions in there, right, folks? And if you're working with a third-party recruiter, the good ones are just the messengers of the lies, passing them back and forth between the parties. There are, of course, the overt liars. So given the fact that you're going to be, shall we say, exaggerating a wee bit, and so are they, they'd be unpleasantly surprised when you arrive.
Right.
So the notion of keep everything up to date, keep going out on dates after you're on board for a little while. I'll let you decide how long that should be. Makes a lot of sense. DJ, this is fabulous. How can people find out more about you?
Yes, so you can reach me at dj@djcareercoach.com. Again, it's dj@djcareercoach.com if you would like to reach out to me. I did want to mention my book. I'm not sure if I could. Yeah,
of course.
If I can do that. I wrote a book, and I'm very excited about it. It's called The Job Promotion Manual, and I have a little visual for you here. You can get it on Amazon. It's the #1 bestseller on Amazon for a little while, and I'm really excited about this book because it shows you how to make yourself more competitive, even if you're already in the job market and you're trying to make yourself competitive in your current job, or you're going through this whole crazy COVID-19 pandemic thing and you're trying to make yourself more competitive in terms of getting that next job.
So that's today's show. I hope you found it helpful. And if you did, here are a few more ways to get stuff from me. First of all, visit my website, which is thebiggamehunter.us. And in the blog, there are thousands of posts that you can watch, listen to, or read that will help you. If you have a question for me, what you do is go to thebiggamehunter.us/live, and you can schedule a 15-minute session with me, or thebiggamehunter.us/video answer. And what you'll get back is a 3 to 5 minute video with an answer to your question. In addition, connect with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/in/thebiggamehunter. Mention that you saw this. I like knowing I'm helping some folks. And if you're interested in interview advice, I've got a new class on Udemy and on Skillshare called the Ultimate Job Interview Framework. Order the class there. It is terrific. It's about 40 minutes long, if I remember correctly, and it will help you a lot. Lastly, watch me on TV. On an Amazon TV, Fire Stick, or on Roku. Download the JobSearch TV app. On Apple TV at 90 some odd smart sets, you download bingenetworks.tv, and JobSearch TV is within that app. I hope you have a terrific day, and you know what? Be great!
Total Wine & More is a wonderland to explore. Thousands of wines and spirits, unexpected pairings, and great gifts. Low prices and helpful guides make the holidays magical at Total Wine & More. Drink responsibly. Be 21.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
This Thanksgiving, think outside the oven and get Thanks Grilling with Ace. Get a new grill and choose from top brands like Traeger, Weber, and Big Green Egg to add even more flavor to your Thanksgiving turkey, side dishes, and desserts. Plus, right now, get free assembly and delivery on all grills and accessories $3.99 and up. For the best help on the best grills, stop by your local Ace and get Thanks Grilling. Ace Rewards members only through December 24th. See participating stores for scheduling or exclusions.